Here we
Hello.
are. Hello. Having tea tonight.
You have to what?
I'm having some tea. I haven't had tea in a while.
Tea. Oh, I thought you said you had to pee tonight. And I'm like, okay. Well, we just as we spoke for 20 minutes. Now you gotta go. Okay.
I gotta go. Sorry.
When you
Time
go,
out.
you go.
No.
That's
Tea.
so
Yeah, I've
funny.
been having a lot of honey lately. Tea with honey. Really
I
good.
love that. I've actually been utilizing honey in some of my workings.
Yeah, I've used
Yeah.
honey more and more and more.
Yeah.
I found a place that does local honey.
Hmm.
I messaged them on Facebook. They're supposed to be getting back with me. I want to get some local honey because I'm just got stuff from the store right now.
Yeah. Fun fact, my uncle's retirement hobby has been beekeeping. So they have
Really?
their own bees and they just live up the road actually from me and I haven't seen them. So I don't know what that says. They own a little bee farm and they call it Triplets Bee Farm. And they sell honey and they make candles and they do craft fairs and they do all sorts of stuff. They've won lots of blue ribbons and it's actually very fucking good. I did their like wildflower honey. It was good.
Mm,
They do like
that's
all sorts
cool.
of yummy.
So you can get local honey right there from your uncle.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I guess. Yeah, I should. If there's nothing there, it's just one of those things. He's my dad's brother side of the family, and I found it, you've seen this time and time again when people pass away, either families stay together or if some families just never contact each other again. And that is 100% the case with my dad's side of the family. And it's so unfortunate. And what's even like strange about it is one of my cousins lives on the same street as my mom now. And so like all
Mm-hmm.
these people are on all these locations so close to each other and the connection's just not there. And
Yeah.
no one's mean or rude or there's nothing that
Right.
happened. It just stopped, there wasn't like bad blood or beef or anything, but
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
interesting.
That is cool. Yeah, I had a friend that was quite a few years ago, and her husband at the time, they're divorced now, did honeys on my property, or honeys, did bees on my property. It was so
That's cool.
fun. It was
Yeah.
really a cool summer, and they got a lot of honey from it.
Yeah.
And so she gave me quite a few jars, but that's gone now. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool though.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to use it, especially with allergies, especially when you get local honey and the bees, they pollinate. Wow, I hope I'm saying that right. They do the thing. They get the
They,
pollen.
yeah.
They party on the flowers and
Mm-hmm.
they spread all the love, right? And so but it's your local stuff, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it helps work with it in the body. I love that. Now I'm gonna go get honey. I guess I'll call them. Fine.
Yeah, call him. Hey, you know what else I saw? I've been following a holistic healer and getting like a lot of recipes for different things that happen in the body. One
Hmm.
thing that they talked about, this might help Nola with her asthma,
Hmm.
was honey.
Hmm.
Get some honey, put some salt in it, mix it up,
Hmm.
and have her take a spoonful morning and night. And it's supposed to get rid of asthma and all that phlegm in the
Oh,
body. Yeah, try it and then report
well,
back.
fun fact, my nanny, who is
Uh-huh.
90 years old, everyone,
Yeah.
eats a spoonful of honey every morning.
See?
And she has 4 years.
Wow.
And she's 90 and driving and beautiful. So maybe this is just the sign to take a spoonful of
Maybe.
honey, at least in the morning, folks.
Yeah. I do a little cocktail in the morning with turmeric, ginger, little warm water, honey, squeeze a lemon, and apple cider vinegar.
Mm.
And it's supposed to be super good for your gut and
Mm-hmm.
inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only been doing it like a week and a half and not as consistent as I would like. But I'm telling you what, like the bloating
Mm.
has been gone. Like
Wow.
it's like a
That's
game
awesome.
changer already. So, I see honey again.
Here
We
we
must
go.
talk about this. All you people out
Honey.
there, honey farms, you're
Instead of
welcome.
mum's the word, honey's the word. Yeah.
Honey's the word. Get yourself some damn honey.
Honey. Sponsored by Honey. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, maybe they'll want to sponsor us. I was actually uploading our stuff today to YouTube, and I thought, oh shit, I should have seen if we gained a subscriber if Catherine actually subscribed, but I forgot to look.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
funny.
I was looking at all of our stuff and getting it out and I felt so folks out there listening, we recorded a couple days ago and then with the timing we're recording again and we recorded a little later than we normally do and so like I've had my days all mixed up. I'm like, "What day is today?" And I felt like one day was Friday already and one day was Thursday. I don't know where where
Yeah.
what I was doing. There was just too much going on. But yeah, so I was like getting the content out and I was posting and I was like, "Ah, well, I hope Tressa's not mad." But then I'm like, "Nah, why would she be? Like, she knows. We just recorded last night. Like, she knows, like, I have a other job to, like, there's other things happening, so, but I did. I got everything done and I felt like I could punch through a wall. I was like, I got it posted so the people know we are here.
Yeah, it had well, yeah, we recorded just 2 nights ago to get the one out Wednesday, and then
Yeah.
we've got stuff this weekend. I'm leaving, so we're recording fairly back to back, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes those are the best ones. So,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So, we're gonna talk about witch energy.
we are. We are.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I have to tell you guys though before we start, you won't
Yeah.
hear from me because we're recording now, but I'm now attending a third funeral. So I just had to say that every
That's
time I've
right.
recorded,
Yes.
there's
Every
been a
time.
funeral. So I
Yeah.
just for the folks who's keeping up with it and is curious how it's going, there's another
Keeping up
one.
with Myra's funeral
Funerals.
attendance.
So anyways, and honestly, like yeah. So anywho, I just for those who care and keep tally of what's happening, that's going on. So
Jeez Louise. Let's hope it slows down for you. That's
yeah.
crazy, right?
They say things come in threes.
They do
So
say that.
I
Yeah.
think that was my third. I was waiting
Well,
for it. I kind of
yeah.
felt it. I'm like, the next time I record and someone else is dead. And so I've been trying to I was like, I don't know who it will be. And everyone's been fairly young, minus like obviously the lady last
Right.
week,
Your
my great
great
aunt, she's
aunt.
older.
Yeah.
Anywho's, well, we can transition into a better topic instead.
It's funny that we decided to talk about this because my friend texted me this morning and she is going to a concert in California. And I was like, "Who are you seeing?" It's a band called Burning Witches. It's
Oh,
all girl band. I've never heard of it, but I was so
that's cool.
excited. I was like, "Oh my gosh, you need they have t-shirts or tank tops to say that, I want one." And
That's
she's
so
like, "Do
cool.
you know their music?" "No, but I
No,
love their name."
that's awesome.
I have no clue who they are.
That's funny.
But I wanna rock
Yeah.
a Burning Witch shirt.
Yeah, why not? Like, that's dope.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right?
Go get a poster on your wall. Hang it in
Yeah.
your office.
Oh, yeah, that'd go for well.
That would be awesome.
Could I hang it
Please
in my
please
energy
clue
room,
me
yeah.
in. Yeah,
I'll keep you
after.
posted.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, maybe I'll get me a poster for my energy room, Burning Witches.
that's
That's
cool.
cool. And then we talked about this tonight. It's a theme for the day, I guess.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was chatting with Tressa like we do before, and she had a whole other topic, but they really go hand in hand. But I just watched some content. I saw this video, and this lady was basically, I mean, she went through her whole list of relation to pastors or preachers or someone in a organized religion. They held an office of some sort. Okay. Even herself. And so she was going through that lineage and making it very clear that, hey, look, I come from this religious background. I see these things. I understand these things. But the entire video was her saying it's only considered witchcraft or bad if it's not done outside of the church. And then throughout the video, she listed all of the rituals that happened inside of um, organized religion in general, because it's not just one denomination, it's not
Mhm.
just one form, it's not like honestly, I could probably tell you multiple different churches that I've attended that were multiple different denominations and they participated in some to some extent. And it's one of those things where she mentioned communion, which communion is where you take an item, a food item, or you drink water or you drink wine to represent it's basically like sacrament, if people are familiar with
Yeah.
sacrament, or it could hold other aspects in other religions too, but it's a ritual and there's symbolism. But she even went as far as when you pray or when you're reading from passages in the Bible and then you get an answer, or when you are touched by the Spirit, or when Spirit reaches out to you, or when you feel the Spirit, like you are channeling, or when you are singing hymnals or someone hits the right note, and you're singing out, like you're conjuring, like it's, or if you stand up and Now, this is not something that I witnessed all the time because I grew up in the LDS faith. But when I attended other churches, a lot of people got up and would speak in tongues or would start saying that
Mhm.
they were being told messages or that they felt these messages. And again, channeling, conjuring, like there's all these different things. And she went through so many things. Okay. But the point being, even like I've already said prayer, that is something very basic, but it's all these things that are considered normal or religious are fine because you're participating in them inside of those four walls, right? Or
Mhm.
inside of that
Mhm.
box, that label, that safety net. But all that you're doing is actual witchcraft. It is witchcraft or it is a ritual, let's remove the word and label witch. Okay. It's still a ritual. You are still
Mhm.
participating in a ritual, and you can define that however you wish. When you are seeking help or asking for help, she even mentioned offerings. So offering would be like you give money or a donation, or you give some sort of offering that's collected. She said that's no different than giving an offering to any other deity, or giving an offering to a deity, or giving an offering to whomever or whatever you're working with.
Mhm.
And she went through all these things, right? And it just was the comments were so fun. I'm a comment person. I've mentioned this before, I think. I just go
Yeah.
straight to the comments. Like
Uh-huh.
people would put like pictures of chairs. I'm the person in the chairs. I'm right there reading all the comments. I read all the threads and I want to see what people are saying. And there were so many people though that are like, yeah, like I use Psalms every day. I use this every day. When I'm praying, I feel this way. And they are of both minds, right? Like they see exactly what she's talking about and they're not condemning her or they're not saying, oh, that's not witchcraft. They're like, yeah, hell yeah. Like you just validated exactly what we've been trying to say. And it was so interesting and I loved it and I commented on it. Actually, I comment on things too, but I commented because, I shared with Tressa, I'm a religious studies minor. And usually when I tell people I'm a religious studies minor, their mind goes to like, I sat down and studied like Christianity or something,
Mhm.
like, or
Yeah.
and I know they automatically go to Christianity, especially where there's so many institutions around, especially around here where I live. People just jump to that, or that I studied Judaism or other things. And yes, did I did to some degree, but that was like 20%, not even 20%, maybe 15% of what I studied. And some of the classes that I took, they were mostly um around rituals and sacred symbolism and the art and act of all sorts of things being a ritual or what that looks like, or even religious cultures and religion and cultures, even attending festivals like Burning Man, speaking of burning witches.
Mhm.
Or going to the Steelers game. Like I think about every time I talk to Tressa and she tells me she's
Mhm.
going to a game, I think about like how ritualistic that whole thing is. And
Yeah.
the terrible towel and the symbolism and the objects and what they're doing. They think spinning this towel and shit's gonna honor the
Change.
Steeler god. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
don't
No,
know,
I
or
know.
whoever the football gods, whoever I don't know, the field. I mean, like channel the yellow. But I'm being silly, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
I
Like
get it. Yeah.
there's a belief, there's faith that this is happening. And there's a group of people who are all in the similar mindset that if they collectively shift the energy, it's going to go in their favor because they're participating in this ritual, right? And the
Mhm.
symbolism that's happening collectively. So it was such a cool video because I have always thought, and what I did share with Tressa too is like at that time I was 18, 19, 20, like those very like beginning of my adulthood, I guess. And I definitely probably would have not thought that this would be what I'm doing now or like my
Yeah.
mindset. But I was telling Tristan, I'm like, I've obviously always been open to thinking outside of the box and looking at it from this side. And it didn't freak me out. It didn't like deter me. You know what I mean? I had this
Yeah.
insatiable thirst to continue to learn more and to understand. And I told Tressa, I said, I really feel like part of that is also why I don't really, I mean, there's other reasons to not like organized religions, or there's other reasons, and everyone has their own experiences. Everyone walks through different paths, and I understand that. And it's not all the same. And so I honor the way people feel and their experiences. But for me, I didn't have like the craziest experiences, but I also like some of the stuff, especially like non-members or people who've left the church, when they look inside of the church, and especially here in the honestly in the South, they look into the church because they don't like it, they're afraid of it, it's different from who they are, and they're like, "Oh, they do rituals, they burn people, they chop people's heads off and crazy shit." I'm serious. There's a whole video, and there's all these things, and like I don't remember that. That didn't happen. What from what I'm aware of, and I haven't heard of it happening before.
Chopping
I've
people's
been to
heads off. Yeah.
several buildings and I haven't seen that one. But like there are forms of ritual, like baptism's a ritual or sacrament for like we've already mentioned, and different prayers and blessings and there's different things. And none of that ever really like freaked me out. Or like
Mhm.
temples or anything. Like I'm not afraid of a temple. Like that's the last thing that's has me with question marks. You know what I mean? Like, because honestly, you do you. Like that's your
Mhm.
ritual. And that is how
Yeah.
you feel you are connecting. And the ritual aspect of it doesn't freak me out like would if I've and I bring it up just because that's a common denominator of reasons to be like, I left it or I didn't like it that I've heard
Yeah.
from some people, right? And so if that's what you're
Specifically around the LDS religion?
yes,
Or is that
specific
what you're talking? Okay.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And so like it never from my experience, it didn't that part didn't bother me. Like because but
Mhm.
I also believe in the power of ritual and I
Mhm.
believe in like, I love sacred symbolism. I love symbolism. I love meaning and understanding and tying meaning to things. And so, like, now I see why I'm drawn to what I'm drawn to and why I practice the way I practice and the way that I connect spiritually and like what I believe in and how my belief systems have changed. But I can see all the different parts of my life that have shaped me to have this viewpoint, but I don't have any resentment towards any of it because to me, it just gave me a like, the way I look at it is it gave me, a perspective that was very open-minded, especially
Mhm.
growing up in the community that I grew up in.
Yeah. I think it's really an interesting topic because everyone knows about my witch word and the book I loved, and I'm reading about spells. And it's really interesting because I agree. I mean, there's rituals, there's energy put into things, there's a meaning behind what you're doing. And like you go back to the word faith and you used, like, the Steelers game for an example. And when you have a conscious collective energy that believes something works. It works because of the energy they're putting out, right?
Mhm,
So it's interesting to me to think about the aspects of what religious leaders have done to build these businesses, which they
mhm,
are. I don't think they should be .orgs because they're making a lot of money. Tax evaders. Anywho, that's a whole other topic. Don't get me going. But they've used the power, because there is power, right? Or we
mhm,
wouldn't do it. They've used the power of rituals, of the collective energy, believing in these rituals. But on the other side of that, what I see is that certain religions, whether it be LDS, Catholic, Baptist, say if you do certain things, you're inviting in the devil, that are also
mhm,
rituals, right? That are
mhm,
also just expressions.
mhm,
And that is to me a level of, again, going back to fear,
mhm,
control, so they can
mhm,
control those things. I think that whatever ritual you would choose to do or participate in, it's always, always, always about your intention and your heart
mhm,
energy behind it.
100%.
That then determines like if you're putting in negative energy, I think
Mhm.
about those dolls people would poke pins in,
Yeah,
now that's a negative, probably going to bring you some negativity or low vibration because you're
yeah.
wishing harm on somebody,
Mm,
right? But when you're doing rituals or spells or whatever you want to call it, to bring high vibrational energy to yourself, to others. I don't think there's anything at all wrong with it. And I'm curious, I wrote this down because, did you ever learn in your classes why rituals started? There's something to them. We all do them in some form. Right? Whether even if you're never in a
yeah.
religious organization, you have rituals. Sometimes you have a ritual of how you pour your coffee and
Mhm,
how, the
mhm,
ritual of your morning, the ritual of your
mhm.
evening. What did they talk about there?
Yeah, a lot of that, and it stems from community. So, like, rituals come from a sense of belonging or a sense of, like, I told Tressa I took this class and it was studied Haitian and it talked about the different forms of that. And was such a really cool eye-opening class for me because in the class, like Tressa said, usually a negative connotation or a projection or like you're welcoming this in or you're welcoming that in or it's not good, blah, blah, blah. And so truly, I did have a very closed-minded perception, especially of that, because to me, I thought of like, and this is just me being honest, I didn't fully understand and I truly was ignorant. I was, and I can say that. And so I didn't understand. So but when I was learning, I learned more about how it was cultural and like the things that they're doing and why they're doing it and why they believe they're doing it. And it all ties back to the sense of belief and the sense of belonging and the community and how collectively it's just like traditions. Traditions become
Mhm.
rituals because it creates the collective. Like the collective now aligns to something. And so they do these things because they have faith in it too. The faith behind it, like believing in the unseen, believing that it will work out, which is no different than surrender, or like boldly moving through, like, I'm going to do this. And, I love it because the other night I did, because I love that you're talking about like the intentions you use around it or what are you doing around or like what's your heart, how's your heart center look like, what are you doing going into this? And the other day I wanted to do, it's called a blockbuster spell, and like part of the ritual, and it's not blockbuster the rental because
Yes.
apparently you can't say that word and everyone's like, what are you talking about? It's basically to remove any blocks. That's all it is. It's like any
Yeah.
blocks in your way. And so I set my intentions before the ritual. But really, if I break it down, like me placing the items out, me using salt for protection or purification, me using cinnamon for acceleration, me anointing the candles and cleansing them is just using olive oil. I'm using all natural earth substances. Okay.
Mhm.
They're from the earth. They're connecting to those energies, right? And they're grounded into nature and what's around us. And it was very simple. But when I wrote my intentions out, it basically ended up being just a write and burn, folks. Like, this wasn't that crazy. This wasn't that complicated. And I used certain candles because they represented colors. And so they were part of those intentions. And then I wrote out what I felt was blocking me. And then basically, if we even want to make it simpler, like, I gave out my affirmations or my intentions, or I stated my claims, or I stated what that paper was doing, that it was burning, it was removing, it was turning those blocks into ash, and that they're no longer, I had a whole thing and I said what I needed to say and I released all of those contents back to the earth, regardless of what I did, regardless of what happens after. The act of doing it was rewiring my brain. One, brought up stuff around, I mean, I don't mind to share, my ritual was around, or the blocks I was
Mhm.
busting
Yeah.
were financial blocks and then blocks around my career.
Mm.
And I just felt really, and that's how I move through anything that I do. If I do a meditation, if I do a ritual, if I do a prayer, for gosh sakes, right? Like, or whatever
Yeah.
you're doing,
Yeah.
it's what comes to mind. And I feel like, okay, this is something I feel like I need to do. And I had never done this before. I'd never done I've never done a blockbuster before. And so when I did it, there were some of those fears where it's like, what am I doing? Like that pre-programming.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, no, like this is not that, whatever. Anyways, but it was really cool because I actually brought up thoughts and feelings and emotions that I didn't know that I had suppressed around any of those topics.
Mhm.
And I had a lot of feelings and thoughts around those subjects that I hadn't worked through before that actually came up. They were meant to come up at that moment in that time. And so it just had me really thinking. And then I realigned my thought process around it. And the act of doing it, I'm putting it out there that it's gone. It's gone.
Mhm.
Those feelings and thoughts are gone. And so that to me, I mean, again, let's make it even simpler than before. Therapy, that was therapeutic. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, there's no difference to me in me. There's no me than doing that or writing a message and releasing a balloon to your loved ones in heaven.
Yeah.
Like, to me, there's no difference. Like, you are working through thoughts and I mean, now they say don't do the balloons because of birds, and I understand. So don't come for me, people. But it's an example. But for me, it's no different than any of that because it brought up things that I didn't know I felt or I needed to release or I needed to let go of. And it ended up being really cool. Like I felt very calm during what I did. I even told Tressa I had some moonstone and it really wasn't even close to the flame. It was like it was further off. It was perfectly fine. It was standing still. I go to grab it and the thing was like split in half. And so I don't know what I did. You know, someone could say it logically got hot and split in half, or I felt like it really picked up whatever I was releasing. Like it took it on. It said,
Yeah.
okay, you know, it absorbed that energy. It absorbed those negative feelings, those blocks, whatever I shared, and it took it on for me. And like to me, that's part of like transmutation, right? Like it took it on and it's
Yeah.
putting it, cleanse it and bye bye. And
Love
I'm
it.
going to
Yeah.
put that back to the earth or whatever.
So, yeah, I love that. Have you seen a change since you've done it? I know it's just not even a week, but
No, probably. So the thing about thing about blockbuster spells is that you are literally saying remove the blocks, right?
okay.
So it can come off as other things that feel a little disruptive.
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
felt a little disruptive this week. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. So I don't know. I think it's part of it. I
Mhm.
think that I felt a lot of emotions again this week. I've been feeling a lot of emotions. And then I feel like part of it is dismantling remaining fears. Like I've had a few feelings in my body over the last few days that I haven't felt in a long time. And I had some things come up. So I feel like I'm in that part of it
Mhm.
because like the difference between a blockbuster and a road opener, for example, is I saw that visual and I really liked this visual. Like imagine a doorway and you've got like a barricade right here, right? And you want to go through this door. You want to go to the new opportunities. A road opener like removes little blocks piece by piece, right? So it begins to open the road. A
Mhm.
blockbuster is like you jump right over it. But like things can feel more intense, more and it
Yeah.
can be more rapid.
Mhm.
And it was really strong when I did it and I utilized different things. And so I feel like nothing to report back yet because
Okay.
I just did
Yeah.
it, but we shall see. It's only been a couple days so far. I have felt some not fun emotions. So I'm thinking that's where I'm at, but we shall
Yeah.
report back. So,
Yeah, well, love to hear. It's funny, I was thinking about we were talking about marriage actually before
mhm,
we started to record, and I was just thinking about like, you know, ceremonial things that people
yeah.
have done for thousands of years,
Mhm,
right? And the way that capitalistic natures and governments have taken advantage of those things, right? Like,
mhm,
thousands of years ago, people had ceremony around love, right? There was ceremony around two people and their relationship, but there was no licensing needed. There was
mhm.
no divorce lawyer needed if they
Yeah.
decided that the energies no longer served each other, and that there's power in the ceremony, right?
Mhm.
But then you fast forward to today and add on the layer of bureaucratic bullshit in
Yeah.
my opinion, and I don't it's interesting. It's just it's taken away from ceremony because of that for certain things like that to me. I think about like graduations. That's very
Mhm,
ceremonial too, right? It's a
mhm,
celebration of next steps in that individual's life.
mhm,
There's so many of them, but yeah, marriage is one for me that I think it's beautiful to have ceremony around love.
mhm.
I just don't love the licensing aspect of it. I'm not a fan of
It
that.
becomes contractual, and I
Yes,
think that's what
exactly.
takes away the the binding is different. It's instead of it being binding of like love and purpose and intention, then there becomes like this paper signature, right? Because you have to get this marriage license. You have to like you can't even do insurance. You can't
No.
even put your person on your insurance without that piece of paper. And like
Mhm.
you can't do any of this. You can't go
They
get a
make it
car
complex.
or whatever without paper, right? Like I mean, I'm going past what you know what I mean? Like there's all these things that just become like we participate in rituals every day, guys. Like Tressa was even just saying the coffee, the way you shower, if you
Mhm.
go purchase something, if you the way you process things at work, or if you hold a huddle or a meeting cadence, or if you're in corporate, or if you own a flower shop and you cut your flowers a certain way. Like there's all these things that we do because they hold meaning to us and they've signified that it works. Something about
Yeah.
it works and
Yeah.
so we go back to those things because they're putting it out or setting it up for us to feel comfortable, or we believe in it, right? Or we believe in the outcome.
Yeah. So I think it's so true. I think being more aware, like one of the things that I think I have become more aware of since kind of embracing what I call witch energy is the fact that I want to do rituals with intention. Because
Mhm,
prior to that, I was doing rituals, but and some I might have been
mhm,
aware of. I wouldn't have called them a ritual at the time. But now I want to do things with intention because when you have intention, it's a force multiplier, right?
mhm,
It moves energy quicker. And so that's one thing that I've appreciated about learning about this and kind of deconstructing the negative narrative around it and really using those rituals and that energy with intention through my heart energy, right?
mhm.
Intention for my highest good and the good of all. Always do it with that,
Yeah.
right? And that's been a game changer. It was like I was telling Myra to my what I wanted to share with everybody today was this week's been a little challenging for me in the fact that it started off with my mother decided, and she's been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, brain tumor, and a lung tumor. And the brain tumor has really impacted her body, right? Her physical body. And she had said, I really think and our physical therapist that was coming to the house suggested this, that she get in a skilled inpatient rehabilitation center, right?
Mhm,
And her energy around it was chaotic. Like she like told me about it and I said, "Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I'll start working on it cuz I've been helping facilitate everything." And like the next day, she like was texting me like, "When do I go? When am I leaving?" Like it was already and I felt the pressure is honestly
mhm,
what happened. I felt the
mhm.
pressure from her. And so my energy trying to do this was chaotic, right? It
Yeah.
was desperate energy. It was like, oh
Mhm,
my God, I got to get this done. And then to add to it, like she was having like when she has these bad days, and I know it's her tumor and probably her emotion around
mhm.
she's definitely in the fourth quarter of her life,
Yeah.
and processing that for herself. Um, she didn't want to talk to me. So every time I call, she just hang up
Yeah.
or say one thing and hang up. So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to understand what I'm doing. But all of that chaotic energy continued to make roadblocks for me. Nothing was easy. Nothing was
Mhm.
coming easy, right? And it was interesting because we talked the other day about like right now, light workers, everyone really. I mean, it's if you choose to tune in, that's up to you. But there is more of a rest energy that's needed. That's on our podcast that came out yesterday. But I went to bed last night and I woke up this morning and I was just exhausted, just
Mhm,
exhausted. So I just texted my boss and said, I'm going to sleep. Like I
mhm.
can't function. And I
Yeah.
know my body needs it. Well, I slept clear till 11 o'clock this morning. I got up. I felt like a human again.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was able to do my grounding and my intention. And as I was doing that, I was really able to have a calm energy. And I asked for like the helper guides to come in,
Mhm,
unemployed angels to come in and really help me navigate this situation with my mom. The other thing I really felt the impression to do, and I would encourage other energy workers, light workers, whatever you call yourself, to do it, is because of the energy shift and some of these organizations like religion, like schools, like banks, like all
mhm.
of the Hollywood is, crumbling. I don't know if you want to call them dark forces, but they're fighting against it because they want those things to stay, right? Because
Yeah.
they'll be in power, they'll be wealthy, and
Mm,
still have control. So I really feel like we need extra protection. I believe that we're protected because we're here to do certain things. So I
mhm,
asked like this energy ball of protection around my home, me, my family, and that if anybody's intention, whether it be a business, an individual, an organization, comes at me with that energy, that it bounces back 10 times back to them immediately.
mhm,
And what was so cool was it showed up for me immediately. I got online with their insurance company, which I had
mhm.
done Tuesday, and they refused to give me information. I have everything. I just needed a list of
Yeah.
these places, right? I got online within 5 minutes. I had the list from the gal that helped me. I was able to contact them, had a wonderful person answer the phone, answered all of my questions, verified our insurance can be taken. It's
Mhm.
100% paid for. Contacted her doctor's office for the referral, got somebody who knows what they're doing, which at that place is a crapshoot.
Yeah.
So they took down all the information for her doctor to get the referral processed. And it was like, within 20 minutes of something I had been battling for 2 days in my chaotic, desperate energy, when I was grounded, calm, and really used my helpers, it
Mhm.
was, here we are now rolling
Mhm.
into something that can happen. So just being more aware, even myself, it really was a good lesson for me to remember what energy was I putting into that? Of course, I was met with roadblocks
Yeah.
because it was chaotic, it was desperate, it was amplified in a
Mhm.
lower vibration. And today, when I could really take a step back, felt very rested, let my body realign, it went a lot smoother. And then just sharing, adding that extra layer of protection for yourselves, I think is going to be a game changer for people.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I'm gonna do that. So
Yeah.
uh, thanks for sharing what you did because I'm like, I need to do that. I want to do
Yep.
that. I think about all the different things that, I've shared over the podcast and that continue to go on in the background of certain situations. And, I love that you mentioned school because I think about like the situation. Nola's been in and out this school year. And I'm like, that's what I needed to do. And now I can do it, and it needs to happen because there's so many things that are trying to penetrate and it's what you allow to come in or what you let permeate. And it happens, right? We all need to reset. We all need to realign, especially in your homes and the place of safety and protection or whatever your safe space is. If it's not your home, if it's somewhere else, really fortifying it because it is amplified totally, and so this is it. I think it's interesting because I actually told my boss today that I'm taking tomorrow off. I just said I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, but I was like, I'm taking tomorrow off. I'm sorry, bro. Sorry, not sorry. I'm out. And so he's like, okay, sure. But I felt this is very similar. I was like, I need to take another day. But this isn't like vacation. This is me to be just at home and in my body and, reset my home, reset myself and just really get aligned. And I feel like I need it. And so I think that's part of it too, is listening to yourself and your body and your mind. And that's how you also stay in a high vibration is listening, like actually
It is.
doing the things your body and your mind and your guides are telling you to do, or even if you call it just your intuition is telling you, like acting on those things is how you also stay in alignment.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about, since we talked about schools, I had a client that came last week who works in a school district, and
Hmm.
she was had a situation at her school where I was helping her read the energy of what was happening with like the superintendent and
Hmm.
other things, and it wasn't panning out the way she wanted it. And I could just feel the energy of these individuals, and their energy at the superintendent level specifically is very self-serving.
Hmm.
And I shared with her, I'm like, this school district by next year will look completely different because of that,
Hmm.
because the way it's
Hmm.
being led.
Yeah.
You know, I would be like, if I was you, I'd just abandon ship.
Chip.
You've got lots of other opportunities, like,
Yeah.
don't sink with these assholes. But it's interesting because I think, oh my God, here we are thinking these people have these. Well, my expectation when I felt the energy, I guess, and
Hmm.
kind of goes back to labels, unfortunately, is that this individual gets in this position to assist
Hmm.
children, for their health, for their brain, for their wellness, and none of
Yeah.
that energy was felt. It was all just convenience and manipulation. And yeah, so I don't know. I made a pretty bold prediction. And so I'm super curious to see how that pans out.
I'm interested.
Yeah. I think every school will be a little different. I think there's
Yeah.
some educators and administrators in those arenas that still have that energy of
Hmm.
truly wanting children to be, have a safe space, learn and grow. And I think they'll be the ones helping redefine, because education's needed, right? People have to
Mhm.
learn, redefine what new education systems can look like.
Mhm.
But I think there'll be a lot of them who just aren't gonna be of service in that area. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
You ain't gotta tell me twice. I have
Yeah,
this
I know you've
conversation daily.
experienced it. Yeah, at your daughter's.
Yeah, it's been interesting, and today Blake went on a field trip with the school, and so he's been on 2 of them now, and he's seen the dynamic firsthand, and so, not that we needed validation or confirmation, but seeing it firsthand, you can witness microaggressions that are happening, and between this person who's supposed to be there for the children and guide this group, and, honestly though, like, it's so unfortunate that Magnolia is going through this, but I've been really proud of how she's handled it and the conversations that we've had around it. And she was in a situation where the student, they were playing a game just recently, and it's like the game where you tap a shoulder and then you pretend like you're not there. Okay, very common game, folks. Adults still do this, and it is a little annoying sometimes. But again, they're children, right?
Yeah.
And so she played this game, and I guess it got to the point where a student no longer liked it. The student chose to go tell the teacher. In return, Magnolia received a very heavy punishment, I believe, and several other students received this punishment too. I don't think that it was warranted to the degree. I feel like this could be just a conversation, or like, hey, like, there's a lot of clarifying questions that could happen to really get to the point of like maybe what was going on or what wasn't going on, why, there's a lot of things. Anywho, but what I was really proud about Nola is that I went and had lunch with her. Her birthday was on Wednesday. And so I went to the school and had lunch with her. And a student came up and hugged her. And he goes, "Happy birthday, Magnolia. You're the birthday girl." And she's like, "Thank you." And I said, "Oh, okay, who's that?" And she said, "That's the person who told on me." And I said, "Oh." And I said, "Well, he seems nice." And she said, "Yes." She said, "We're okay now." And she said, "I talked to him and I said, hey, next time you can tell me if you don't like something anymore, you can tell me to stop. And I promise I'll stop."
Mm,
And I was
that's
really
cool.
proud of her for that.
Yeah,
Like, it's such an unfortunate, I'm not happy with the other layers that we needed to go through there,
yeah,
but I'm grateful for her ability to recognize, like, I need to communicate my level of boundaries too. Like,
yep,
hey, look, like, you didn't have to do that. Like,
right.
you could just tell me. I would have stopped. And the other student, when I met him, I told her, I was like, "No, you don't know." He seemed very kind. He seemed very timid. And he probably responded, I mean, not even probably, he did respond in the best way he knew how to. And
Mhm.
so it's no fault to him, and so she's not they're friends, and I
Yeah,
really
yeah,
appreciated that, she still read the situation enough to wanna still be friends, and he hugged her, and he
mhm.
told her happy
That's
birthday, and,
awesome.
like, not a bunch of I mean, some students did come and say happy birthday, but not like everybody, so, I mean, I found it very interesting that he did choose to walk over and, like, talk to me, I'm the
Yeah,
mom, like,
yeah,
parents are weird. So, like,
yeah, no, that's
um
amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
to
so
be
I think
intimidating.
that it ties all back into it too, like really safeguarding and protecting and putting those boundaries and shields around. I do think, I share this story to just reiterate, yes, there's a lot of things happening, there's a lot of moving parts, and yes, there are things that are still going to go on. But they teach us lessons and they teach us things, and there's something to be learned from it. And she's a good example of, for a minute there was a lot of why me's, and then it changed, and so she was able to move on and move forward from it. And so I think that it's just it was a good reminder for me that, like, these things can still happen and go on, but how are you going to show up next? What are you going to do to set the pace? How are you going to protect yourself or your environment? And so you sharing what you're doing is another way to do that too. Like, how could I continue to work with all these guides and all these ancestors or all these angels or all these spirit, God, source, whoever
Mhm.
that want to actually help me? How can I work with them to really help me or my family or whatever situation, especially during these times?
Yeah, I think you should use all your resources and free will's there,
Yeah.
so inviting them is pivotal, and yeah, good lesson for me too. And I think of one last thing before we end. I just thought of this too when you were talking about offerings, right? And
Mhm.
so often in a religious setting, sometimes an offering is is monetary, right? But I think about the energy of gratitude as an offering,
Mhm.
you know,
It
and
is
so
really.
anytime I do communication with spirit, whether you call it prayer or intention, there's such an element of gratitude that I bring to that. And that's powerful
Mhm.
too. And it doesn't mean
Mhm.
that there isn't ever a physical transaction. Sometimes that's great also, right, with something
Mhm.
physical. I try to think about my monetary gift being that spirit guides me when I need to give and who I need to give to in that
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
It's just not concentrated to one person, organization, or time of day or month, right?
Yeah,
But I really think about that, you know, gratitude is a beautiful offering. Don't forget that.
I
So,
agree.
all right. Well, this was good.
This was good.
Good.
I didn't
We
know
love
where we
our
were going.
me neither. It
I
was
enjoy
kind of
it.
funny. Both episodes we recorded this week just unfolded like that. So, because we're channeling.
Mhm. Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
That's right. That's right. Well, until next time, keep your vibrations way high.
And stay sassy.